Hi everyone. This time I'll talk about basics of descriptive statistics to analyze survey data. Descriptive statistics can be useful for two purposes. One, to provide basic information about variables in a dataset, and two, highlight potential relationships between variables. The first topic is graphical and pictorial methods. There are several graphical and pictorial methods that enhance researchers' understanding of individual variables and the relationships between variables. Graphical and pictorial methods provide a visual representation of the data. Histograms. Histograms visually represent the frequencies with which values of variables occur. Each value of a variable is displayed along the bottom of a histogram, and a bar is drawn for each value. The height of the bar corresponds to the frequency with which that value occurs. Scatter plots. Scatter plots display the relationship between two quantitative or numeric variables by plotting one variable against the value of another variable. For example, one axis of a scatter plot could represent height and the other could represent weight. Each person in the data would receive one data point on the scatter plot that corresponds to his or her height and weight. Next topic is measures of central tendency. Measures of central tendency are the most basic and often the most informative description of a population's characteristic. They describe the average member of the population of interest. There are three measures of central tendency. Mean is the sum of variables' values divided by the total number of values. Median is the middle value of a variable. And mode. Mode is the value that occurs most often. The mean is the most commonly used measure of central tendency. Medians are generally used when a few values are extremely different from the rest of values. This is called a skewed distribution. For example, the median income is often the best measure of the average income because while most individuals earn between $0 and $200,000, a handful of individuals earn millions. Next topic is measures of dispersion. Measures of dispersion provide information about the spread of variables. There are four key measures of dispersion: range, variance, standard deviation, and skew. Range. Range is simply the difference between the smallest and the largest values in the data. The interquartile range is the difference between the values at the 75th percentile and the 25th percentile of the data. Variance. Variance is the most commonly used measure of dispersion. It is calculated by taking the average of the squared differences between each value and the mean. Next is standard deviation. Standard deviation, another commonly used statistic, is the square root of the variance. And skew. Skew is a measure of whether some values of a variable are extremely different from the majority of the values. For example, income is skewed because most people make between $0 and $200,000, but a handful of people earn millions. A variable is positively skewed if the extremely values are higher than the majority of values. A variable is negatively skewed if the extremely values are lower than the majority of values. Last topic is measures of association. Measures of association indicate whether two variables are related. Two measures are commonly used, chi-square and correlation. Chi-square as a measure of association between variables, chi-square tests are used on nominal data to determine whether they are associated. A chi-square is called significant if there is an association between two variables, and non-significant if there is not an association. Then correlation. A correlation coefficient is used to measure the strength of the relationship between numeric variables. Example, weight and height. The most common correlation coefficient is Pearson's error, which can range from -1 to +1. If the correlation coefficient is between 0 and 1, as one variable increases, the other also increases. This is called a positive correlation. For example, height and weight are positively correlated because taller people usually weight more. If the correlation coefficient is between -1 and 0, as one variable increases, the other decreases. This is called a negative correlation. For example, age and hours slept per night are negatively correlated because older people usually sleep fewer hours per night.